Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, and everyone in between all of that, however you identify, welcome to the Jerick Show, your daily dose of cybersecurity know-how. This week, we have got an action-packed episode. We've got a frozen house, but no hotels and even less hospitals. Wow.
Welcome to the Jerick Show, featuring your hosts, Javvad Malik and Eric Krohn. Timely topics, poorly presented.
Yes. It is that time of the year. December has started. The bad news, the cold weather, it truly is signs of the end of days. And normally this is that time of year where my colleague who lives in Florida is gloating about how he can go around in shorts and flip-flops and not feel cold. But he will be here in a few days, and then we can introduce him to what good old winter weather should be. Eric Krohn, how are you doing? Have you done your shopping for wrapping up warm?
I'm doing pretty good. And yes, indeed, I do actually have a warm jacket. A couple years ago, I did a thing in like Columbus, Ohio, and it was -5 without wind chill. That's like, I don't even know what that is in Celsius, but it was really, really stinking cold. So at least I have that and some things like that to keep me warm. Yeah, I'm hearing some snow is falling around. I know one of our colleagues got stuck over in Germany due to some snow. I'm like, oh, this is great timing. But I will be heading in. Sunday night I leave here and arrive in your neck of the woods Monday morning, where I'm assuming you're picking me up at the airport, right?
So now that you've just disclosed publicly that you're leaving Sunday, the OSINT challenge for the day is to find Eric's booking and put him in the middle seat and ordering him a vegan meal. So that's what we're trying to do. Who are you flying with?
It's a charter plane. It's a charter. Yeah. Private jet.
Yeah. You're good for the environment, I suppose.
Come on. Yeah. Well, we offset the cost by dumping chemtrails as we go across things, and it makes it work out well.
Subsidy from Big Brother for doing that.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It works out very, very well indeed.
Although I did see the other day, there is a big luxury boat. I don't know what the correct term for the boat. I know boat.
Yacht?
That crosses the Atlantic. So you can go from Southampton to New York. The boat is bigger than the Titanic. It's really luxury. Obviously, it comes at a cost if you go for the nice penthouse suites and everything. But it's like 10 days and it looks really, really nice. So maybe next time, instead of chartering a flight, well, you can charter your flight over here and then take the cruise back.
Well, hey, there's a one-way cruise out of Tampa, which is the area I live, that goes to Barcelona. It's like 13 days or something like that. And I don't know, man. I thought that would be kind of cool to head out to Spain.
You should do that. You should go on as many cruises as possible, especially the ones that go close to icebergs.
That's not very nice, man.
Thousands of house purchases frozen, I tell you, by cyber attack. What's going on here? You can't buy a house anymore?
Well, basically what happened is some legal firms got hit with what is pretty obviously ransomware. It's kind of funny. We see these stories and the writing's on the wall, but nobody actually says the word. It's like, if you don't say it, it really isn't that, but basically, yeah, that's what we got here. It took down these folks that it really impacts. They do a lot of like real estate transactions, and it's really impacted how that's happening. So there's a lot of people who were like, hey, we're going to close on a house today. And they get the phone call and it's like, yeah, not really, but contractually you're supposed to, and so it'll be interesting to see how some of that legal stuff falls out, because I don't know, man, when you buy a home like that, sometimes you're really cutting it close between when you need to vacate and pay for things and kick stuff off. And if it doesn't happen, your interest rates can change and all that stuff. I mean, it can be pretty nasty when this stuff gets delayed, but it's not the first time we've seen real estate targeted. I mean, title companies with BEC, where they're trying to get people to send their down payments to other places.
Yeah.
That's super common. But yeah, this has pretty much locked up a whole bunch of real estate transactions because these legal firms are shut down. Now, I love this. What's right in the middle of the screen there? There is no evidence that any data integrity has been compromised. And then they go down at the bottom and they talk about Lockbit.
Yeah.
Well, okay, folks, just because you didn't say it, if you got hit by Lockbit, guess what? Your data has been compromised.
That's right. That's right. And, you know, it's a big thing. Like we often talk about how criminals are most effective when they can get an emotional response from people. So, you know, losing money or having money frozen, not being able to close, and all the stress that you said about being in a chain, it's not good. Not a good.
It's a stressful time. There's a lot of things that are going on and you're like, oh my gosh, you know, and it's oftentimes you're dealing with more amounts of money than you would with any other purchase that a person is going to make for the typical person in their lives, right?
Yeah.
You know, you're doing a large down payment. You may have sold your own home. You're taking the equity, rolling it in, or even if you're not, you're signing up for, you know, $500,000 in debt or something. That's already one of those things that kind of makes you pucker up a little bit. And then whammo, now there's something like this going on right before the holidays. Who knows how long this is going to take to get cleared out? I mean, average time is at least a week after a ransomware attack. And I know they say some organizations there actually were able to do some pen and paper stuff, which is nice that they were able to have that business continuity stuff going on. But wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, if you're in between houses, I guess the only option you have is over this period while it gets resolved is you just book a hotel, I suppose.
Oh, yeah. Piece of cake. That's what you're going to do is probably stay in a hotel.
And,
but
wasn't planned at all, was it?
Yeah. So rolling into that lovely segue there. Booking.com customers are being targeted. And here's the interesting thing. It isn't booking.com that's the problem here necessarily, but attackers have figured out a way to basically social engineer people at the properties to get into the booking.com software there and using those folks. And it reminds me a lot of like what we've seen in the cell phone stuff, right? Where they've targeted the retailers, not necessarily even the corporate offices, but these resellers and stuff to be able to get into the system long enough to wreak some havoc, swap some SIMs or do something like that, you know, that kind of stuff. It's really going after these third parties. And they've just figured out that, hey, this is a pretty easy way to socially engineer people into giving up credentials for this platform.
It is. And this is the problem, isn't it? Like there's a lot of these systems are built on the assumption that certain aspects will be not accessed by people not booking or who aren't existing customers or who aren't staying at the property, or it will only be maintained by certain hotel staff and everything. And you know, we've seen so many like hotels are like they get attacked quite a lot. There's been several chains and I remember once seeing Jason Street showing a video of him doing a pen test or red team exercise at a hotel, and he just, as he does, he walks down the corridor into the back parts where staff are, the kitchen and everything, and like there's boards with everyone's name on it and you know who's staying in what room and if someone ordered something or if there's an allergy or special requests and what have you. And there's one point where a member of staff sort of like approaches him and he goes, he says, like, I had to use my most ingenious, like, anti-detection technique. And he just literally shows and goes like, hey, man, how's it going? And he's like, good. Just walks past. And that's it.
You know, it makes me think we were recently at a conference not too long ago, and at the hotel there, up in the front, they had a placard, and it was like, welcome, and then it gave the person's name and their loyalty status for like 6 or 7 people on there. And I'm like, man, how easy would it be to, I'm Bob. You know what I mean? For a social engineer, putting that kind of information out there along with their loyalty status and stuff, that's pretty interesting, and how that can played on. And I don't know if you've done it. I know I've had to do it where my key doesn't work, and you go back up to the front and just kind of talk to the person. Hey, yeah, this is my name, and yeah, this is my room number. Here's a piece of plastic, and they just go, oh, okay, here you go. And they give you a new key because the room number, and it's that easy.
It is. But
Anyways.
It's almost as sloppy as someone going on air and saying, I fly from Tampa, Orlando to London Heathrow on Sunday, and I reach there on Monday, and no one cancel my flight.
Really, you really think that's a threat? This is, you really think that's an issue? Just curious.
See, these are the famous last words by everyone ever doing a risk assessment. You really think that's a risk? Even if you do, we accept the risk.
If I was as well known and disliked as you are, that might be a problem.
Wow. That is like 7 different levels of shade right there. And I refuse to be baited into this argument with you.
Oh man, yeah. It's Friday. Feeling good.
Well, I hope you don't need to. Good thing you don't live in Texas, New Mexico, or Oklahoma, because otherwise you would not have access to hospital emergency rooms. That's A&E for people on this side of this pond.
What does that stand for? A&E?
Accident and emergency.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, you call it ER, we call it A&E.
Yeah, okay. All right. Well, yeah, this is what's interesting about this is, and I didn't have a chance to really research it too deeply.
How's that different from any story you speak about on this show, Eric?
No, that's true. But I saw a number of different a number of different emergency rooms and medical places that appear to have been shut down more than just this area due to some other stuff. So it seems to be like either they're all related or it's a rash of them happening. But this kind of goes back to what we've seen over and over again with ransomware attacks on places like this, and how bad it can be, right? There was that German one where they say, oh, maybe somebody died, but they're redirecting ambulances and stuff like that for people that need help now. This kind of stuff is getting a little bit crazy, and this was pretty widespread, the groups that it hit here. So now you guys have had some issues over there as well. I mean, there was that WannaCry kind of hit you all pretty hard over yonder.
Ancient history, man, ancient history. But what was it using to spread? Eternal Blue, was it? Developed by and hoarded by who? Yeah, you want to play that game, buddy?
Wasn't that SMBV1, which should not?
Okay.
Anyway.
Speaking of the NHS.
Nice. We didn't even plan that segue. That worked out well.
Regulator says stranger entered hospital, treated a patient, took a document, and then vanished. This is like one of those scenes out of a movie where like someone walks in and they grab the doctor's coat and a stethoscope, and then they're just looking at a clipboard and they walk through everything, and it's like, wow. So this is in Scotland.
How did they treat a patient?
Fine.
Tell me this wasn't like a turn your head and cough sort of thing, right?
So an unknown person entered the hospital only to walk off with data on 14 patients.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Scotland is a much friendlier place than England. And, I assume people are just a lot more trusting. And this is true. I'm kind of like generalizing and stereotyping, but I remember the first time I had to go to Edinburgh for a long time ago for a job. And I got in a taxi in London to get to the airport, and over here the taxi has like this divider screen, and they speak to you through an intercom system and what have you, and you're just like, where are you going? Off there. That's fine. And get to Scotland, Edinburgh, at the airport, going to the office, and the taxi's open. The guy's like chatting to me all the way, being super friendly. I couldn't.
Could you understand him?
No, half of it I couldn't understand, but he was being really friendly from the tone, I gathered. But anyway, you know,
something about that Scottish accent, man, that's just so hard. Like, I know when people have a strong Scottish accent, it takes me like 3 or 4 seconds to catch up, like more than usual. And you're like a sentence behind. Oh, I get what you're saying.
Yes.
Nice. Okay, so this was Scotland.
Yeah, and like, you know, the person who walked into the hospital and got walked out, they, despite the hospital operating CCTV, the wall socket powering the system had been turned off by a member of staff. So either this is like a collaboration, or it's a case of like the cleaner coming in at night and unplugging the life support machine. And then like,
this is like a Jason Bourne sort of thing, or
So I don't know. You know, it's that joke, isn't it? There's one particular ward where a patient would die every night on one bed.
Yeah.
And like they're always wondering, like, this is unlucky or something, and what have you. And then they saw, it was a cleaner.
Or tied to the light switch or something. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, oh goodness.
So do you need to go to the hospital? If so, don't go to several states in the US, and try not to get ill when you're over here, because the NHS doesn't want immigrants coming in and leeching off the system.
Yep. So before you cut me off,
oh dear. If only I had, not run out of time. So unfortunately, we'll have to wait until a later time. Maybe it was his final wishes. Maybe he was saying he's retiring and living on his farm. Who knows? With someone like Erich, anything is possible. Stay secure, my friends.